Chet?
Mr. President, I believe that we are ready to begin the meeting.
All right, it is 4:32 on Thursday, February 24th, 2022, and I call this meeting of the Meridian Historic Preservation Commission to order. Roll call. Blaine Johnston is here. Tyler Ricks.
Here.
John Dinger. Jack Keller. Pam Jagosh. Destiny Hart. Not here. Jody Alt is not here. Before we proceed, one item that we need to talk about on the agenda. We will not be able to meet regular time on March 31st. So we are suggesting that we go to March 24th, which is the week before. So everybody mark your calendars on that, but we'll discuss that at the end. I just wanted to bring that up before we adopt the agenda. So with that, do we have approval to adopt the agenda? Speak up, anybody?
Commissioners, just to let you know about with Robert's rules, generally when the president opens to have a motion to approve an item, then someone will make a motion to approve the adoption of agenda, for example, and then someone will second, and then we do all ayes.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Keller, seconded by Commissioner Dinger for the adoption of agenda. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Approval of minutes from January 27, 2022.
I motion to approve the minutes from January 7, 2022.
Motion by Commissioner Keller, seconded by Commissioner Jagosh for approval of our January 27, 2022 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Well, I wasn't here, but
Go ahead,
I'll
go,
trust all you.
go ahead. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Hey, Tyler, can you say something? Tyler, can you hear us? He was here earlier because we have Commissioner Alt on now. Yeah. Jody, can you say hi? Jody, can you hear us? Mr. Neri, can you hear us?
Bill, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
No, Bill's there. Bill can hear us.
I can hear.
We're having a few technical difficulties, so.
I perceived that.
Commissioner Alt, can you hear us? Bill, you can hear us, can't you?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
I can hear Bill over my.
Bill, can you try talking again? Bill, Mary, can you?
Oh,
try
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
talking?
still here. Yes. Do we even know if Jody's actually there? Maybe she walked away for some reason. So,
Bill, can you try again? I think we may have fixed it.
for me,
Perfect.
Okay, we can hear you now.
yep, I can hear you.
Jody, can you hear us? There's Jody. Jody, can you hear us?
Oh, there we go.
Jody, if you can hear us, can you give us a thumbs up? Usually. Jody, can you hear us? We can't hear you, Jody. I think she can hear us.
Mr. President, we do have a quorum, so we could begin the meeting, or we could wait another moment to see if Commissioner Tyler Ricks and Commissioner Jody Alt are going to try to log back in. That's up to you.
Let's go ahead and proceed and see if they'll log back in. We will go on to approval of our monthly financial statements. Cassandra, is there anything new that we need to worry about or think about?
The only new item, there was an invoice from TAG that
Okay,
was sent through.
okay. With that, do we have a motion to approve our monthly financials?
I move to approve the monthly financial statement.
I'll second that.
Who was that?
Jody.
Ho, Jody, good to hear you.
Oh, what a crazy thing.
All right, motion by Commissioner Keller, seconded by Commissioner Alt for approval of our monthly financial statements. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. New business. We have two new commissioners, John Dinger and Pam Jagosh. John, I'll let you go first. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm expecting this. My name is John Dinger. I am an attorney here in town. I work for the Ada County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. A big fan of Idaho history, and I saw that there was an opening here. I jumped on it, and I'm very grateful that I was selected.
Your turn, Pam. Yes, please.
My name is Pam Jagosh, and I'm a native Idahoan, lived here my whole life. I applied after seeing the opening. I've served on a historic preservation commission in the past. In Meridian. I'm currently an elementary art teacher, Valley Christian Schools, and then in the afternoon when I'm done teaching children with Marcy's Law.
Welcome, both of you. Hope our next meetings go better, but welcome. Thank you. Item 4, presentation by Karen Brewer. So Karen, come on up, introduce yourself.
How about that? How's that? Better. So like I was saying, it wasn't until a year ago that a friend of mine actually referred to it as the historic Reidenbach Canal. And that's the first time I had gone out and done any research about it and found it to be quite interesting. So when I saw your request for submittals for the virtual tour, I jumped on it. So here we are. So the Reidenbach, hang on. Let me get back. All right, here we go. Let's give this a try. So the Reidenbach, the water actually comes directly out of the Boise River. It starts at Barber Park and it ends at Lake Lowell. Construction on this began in 1877. It was William Morris who began the work, but he passed away that year. So the canal was inherited by his nephew, William Reidenbach. So William Reidenbach and Morris's widow, you know, they were dedicated to the canal, but they did not have the funds to continue the project. So he had to sell it in 1883. The canal then went through several different ownerships until 1890, when the Boise City Nampa Irrigation bought the project and continued it. In 1893, the canal was complete to Lake Lowell, to Nampa. So why is the Reidenbach so important to Meridian? So in your, in Meridian's historic preservation plan, it actually notes that the irrigated agriculture was key to Meridian's development. So the Homestead Act of 1862, settlers were able to buy this desert land for 25 cents an acre, and desert land was ground that would not, without irrigation, produce any kind of crop. But the person who claimed this land had to have water to it within 3 years. Now, William Morris, who actually started the canal, he claimed 17,000 acres. And so thus he started the canal, right? So the next section here, in 1886, these quotes come out of Lila Hill's book, and it just shows how difficult it was for the settlers before the canals were done. It says, owing to the failure to get water from the Reidenbach ditch this season, none of the settlers west of Gress's place, that's at the corner of Fairview and Eagle, raised anything that amounted to much. Few of them have enough to keep body and soul together by shooting jackrabbits for the bounty offered to the county. We scarcely comprehend how dry the valley was in the days before irrigation. With no moisture in the air, there was not even morning dew. Hard to imagine. The Reidenbach Canal completed in 1893. After the water became available, most of the land had been claimed by the 1900s, and then Meridian became home to the dairy and the fruit drying industries. So this picture, this is taken from Lila's book. It just shows how difficult it was to dig these canals with horses and plows. All right, here's a map of the Meridian area of impact. And you can see in red there where the Reidenbach kind of snakes through the whole area. And I went on Google and I followed this, right? Just because I wanted to see how much of the Reidenbach had been put in concrete at this point and how much of it was native still. And I'm not sure that I've got this right, so don't hold me to it. But everything in red, that's where I felt that it was concreted. It looked like it had concrete. The green areas then are the native. So you have two right there in the middle, and then off to the left, that's where it starts to go out through the farmland that's still there. So the lower arrow there on the bottom, the little curved section, that's the area that that I was submitting for the video tour. And if you look at it closer on the next slide, Cassandra, you've got it. Okay, there we go. So this is the area, this is the corner of Victory and Meridian Roads, and the area in blue, that's where the canal is still in its native state. And the yellow star actually turns out to be the Doris Frost Farmstead, and it's listed in the Idaho Historic Site Inventory. So kind of an interesting area there. So the reason that, that I submitted this was, because it's so important to Meridian's agricultural heritage, and this unique section of the Reidenbach remains in its native state, and it's the only natural section that I could find that people can still drive by and walk by. My goal for adding it to the historical tour was just to make people aware of these canals, like I wasn't, and, to maybe help preserve this area as the land gets developed, maybe preserve it as a natural amenity. The Golden Eagle Audubon Society actually came out to this land and to the riparian area, and they looked at it and they documented the importance of this area to Meridian. And so I've included that letter that you guys can can look at later if you'd like. Questions?
Can I ask what your background is?
My background. So I am retired from Hewlett Packard. I was there for about 20 years, retired in 2016. Me and my husband, we own a swimming pool construction company. So I've been working in the company with him since I retired from Hewlett Packard. My background is in IT, but don't ask me to fix anything here. So I've been in Idaho about 32 years, maybe, something like that now.
We've talked about this for a number of years. Are you familiar with our walking tour app on smartphones?
I am, yeah.
We've talked about a couple of times on our next major upgrade for it is to add the irrigation portion to that walking tour. So, yeah, thank you for bringing us to our attention that the more than just us as commissioner are interested in this. So,
Well, good.
yeah, we are interested in doing that. And yeah, we know that Lila has done a lot of work on that. And she's done a lot of presentations when she was at the History Center and on this commission about the irrigation and how important it is to not only the valley, but the city of Meridian.
Yeah. So the ride and buy, I was surprised to find out that it actually supports about 69,000 acres of land. Incredible. So, all right.
Yes, so yeah, it's under advisement and like I said, we've got to get a hold of as a commission, talk about it, see what we want to do. Changes internally between that we need to talk about on our app as to who's going to pay for certain, anyway. Yeah, but it is under advisement by us that we do want to include the irrigation portion to our walking tour.
Well, let me know if I can help you. Be glad to do whatever you need.
If you, would you stick around for a little bit for our next discussion? Because
Yeah.
it may interest you.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Oh, any questions before you walk away? All right. With that, we will go on to Preservation Month, which is in May. I reached out to SHPO. They are planning on discussing the sesquicentennials, the 150 years of mining in Idaho. Is there going to be their theme? They don't know if they're going to do anything in person or not. But for me, it kind of ties into what Karen just said. There was no mining in Meridian, but the agriculture, farming, livestock all supported that mining industry that took place, Idaho City area, stuff like that. So this may be coming up again when we get closer to Preservation Month. And if you're interested, maybe come down and we maybe have a presentation here. And maybe you can talk about that if we are able to do something like that, if that interests you. Okay. So that's a thought that we've had. Ms. Schiffler was talked to me a little bit about maybe doing mining display, if we can build like little sluice boxes or something like that to show the community how mining took place. Could be interesting to try and build something like that, but I want your guys' thoughts on it. We don't need something tonight, but probably by next month, need to probably formalize some ideas of what we want to do for Preservation Month. Again, depending upon what happens with COVID, if we're going to be able to do anything in person or if it's all going to be remote again, that's all up in the air, but we need to at least think about what we want to do. Question?
So Farmstead out towards Cuna, they had a mining exhibit set up
Okay.
last fall. Really excellent with the wood, with the water that came down. Really well attended. The kids loved it. Possibly contact Farmstead. I think they were a contract booth.
Okay.
So contact them. they would just need access to water.
Are you volunteering to
I will.
coordinate? Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. Yeah, if you would like to contact them and see if they're interested
Okay,
in maybe doing something in City Hall, out in the plaza or something like that, if it's available, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
So. Anything else? So yeah, keep that in mind and we will talk about it again next month. Any other questions, discussions on that? Okay, we will go on to item 6, which is Meridian Library District's request. Ms. Schiffler, can you pull up that inventory that they gave us and put it on the screen? So for everybody that's here, the History Center, as we now know it, is not going to exist in the future. Meridian Library District is going to take ownership of that and in their libraries somehow, some way have rotating displays, take some of that information, those displays, put it in the library and rotate stuff in and out. They cannot house everything that we have. So we need to look at some of the items and try and find homes for those items. There's the horse that's in there that I have no idea what's going to happen. But my question is, we're going to have to get a subcommittee put together to start looking at this and brainstorming. Mr. Neri, do you remember the time frame as to when the library district wants to have this resolved, or at least partially resolved?
Sure. Mr. President, members of the commission, yesterday, I think was kind of this flavor I got last month that they'd like it sooner than later, but I think really honestly, as expeditiously as practical.
Okay.
They recognize that some of the things are going to be harder to rehome because of the size or the cost for transportation of them, finding a specific spot. They obviously looking for something, some historical in Meridian would be ideal. Don't know, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity there. Obviously Ada County next, Treasure Valley next, Idaho next. I mean, again, there are other organizations around the state in different cities or counties that have historical commissions, historical societies that would be interested in some of these items. So I think they'd like them rehomed as soon as we could, but I think there is, again, some challenge in all of it. But I think really I think what you stated is exactly right. It's sort of having a subcommittee to help sort of brainstorm through some ideas and contacts. The library certainly has resources and context they could provide us. Again, for the newer commissioners, all that material normally or used to belong to the Meridian Historical Society. With the work with the city and the library district last year, we created a 3-party agreement. So the Historical Society transferred all of their material ownership to the library district. So all the material that's in the space in the city hall lobby, as well as the storage room that's in the basement, all are owned now by the library district. The city's role is twofold. One, part of our agreement is to provide them the storage space. So the storage space in the basement is fairly large, but some of these items are also very large. So the more room they take up, the less room for the other stuff. There's a lot of paper material. There's a lot of archival newspapers and photographs and things like that. Some of them are in the basement. Some of them are in the first floor history center area. And then they'd like to really work on digitizing all the remainder of the paper records and then determining which of the remaining items they'd like to keep. Most of them, from my understanding, and probably Cassandra's as well, is we're talking about most of the smaller items, because there's a couple that have a great size but have a great historical relation to the city. There's a scale from the creamery that used to sit on the site of where this building is today. That was one that their lead worker, Ms. Keybear, had told me that was one they did intend to keep because it had such a historical value to the city of Meridian. Most of the other things they'd like to keep, in my brief conversation with them, have been more of the smaller things they have. There's a lot of small items here in the main floor that are easier to store and then re-display periodically and rotate. Some of the larger things like Mr. President said, the horse is a little bit tougher to do that with. We have some scales, there's a loom, there's some safes. They're very big. And so some of them are really heavy, and you don't want to probably move them more than once. So those are the things they would less likely want to maintain as a permanent part of their collection. So that's kind of what they're looking for. So eventually, as Mr. President stated, the idea is get the basement to a place where they can make it a functional space for the material and the things they're trying to do with the written material. They're still going to maintain the lobby space today. There's no plan for that to move within a set time period. At some point, it will be more practical that it will likely need to move, but we are trying to be sensitive to the library's needs, and they won't be ready to move things to a location at their main branch for at least 3 to 5 years-ish or so. And I think we're okay with that for the moment. And so I think, again, the long answer is they'd like it done as soon as we reasonably can. They recognize there's a significant challenge in getting this done. And again, we're here to assist them. They're certainly doing their own part to get those items rehomed and get them repurposed somewhere else. Because again, they are technically all of their items, they're not ours. So our assistance is what we're providing to them along with the storage space. Long-winded lawyer answer. So.
Mr. President, if I might add, when I spoke with the library, one of the main reasons that they'd like to move some of the larger items is they would like to redo the display that is in there, and they're unable to do the display as they would like to, particularly with some of the largest items, the horse and a couple of the wooden display cases. So those ones in particular, and maybe the loom, sounded like they were kind of making it more difficult to reopen and organize the display space.
Mr. President, may I ask a question?
Yes,
What exactly do we mean when we say rehome?
find them a new home. So everything has been there that was either Lila's family or someone has donated to the History Center. So we're just trying to find a new home for those items, someone that would like to take care of it, whether that's Ada County Historic Preservation Commission, the State Historic Preservation, possibly, although they don't have a lot of storage space either. I don't know if West Ada would be interested in any of the stuff we have from the school district that they could use and have displays for. I just had the other thought is I think that Dry Creek also has a historic district or commission, and I think they set up a small display of some kind. That's another possibility. Seeing if they wouldn't like a loom or something like that that would have been used back at Dry Creek area when they had all the farms and they were making all their own clothing and stuff like that. So that's a possibility also. So that's what we're trying to do. So.
Mr. President, I might add, in my understanding of rehome, I would sort of define that as transfer ownership in a responsible way of the items.
So with that long-winded speech between Mr. Neri and myself, would anyone like to take on responsibility of heading up that subcommittee? I'll be at the meetings or Zoom in on the meetings if you have them. But if someone else would like to take responsibility to head that subcommittee, let us know. think we still have time. I'm not going to force anybody to try and make a decision today on that, but think about it. All that information, the rehoming, the stuff that the library district does not want to have is in the packet for this month's meeting. So take a look at it. And then we will bring this item up again next month. And see if anyone would like to volunteer for that subcommittee. So any questions? Young Mr. Keller.
Are we allowed to give some of this stuff to businesses?
Mr. Neri, that would be an answer for you, or a question for you.
The quicker answer is no. None of it belongs to us. So really, all of it is the library, and they have their own disposal process on how they donate those to other ones. Again, their preference is that they go to someone that will display it, someone that will maintain its historical value to others. Now, again, there are businesses that probably would do the same thing. That's certainly something we can suggest to them, and they can consider that. I don't know what their rules are, because the library districts have different rules on donating things than a city might. So I don't know what they are. To be honest, they prefer they don't end up on eBay or an Antique Roadshow. They'd prefer they actually were going to be displayed somewhere. But again, some historical place, again, there are different counties around the state that have historical societies that have historical displays in their counties. And it may have more meaningful value to them too, depending on what the item is. And again, some of the items have a great significance to the Meridian area. That's kind of why they took them in the first place. And some of them have just historical value because they're an antique and they have maybe an interesting history to them, or just they're an interesting item. So I think it really is kind of their call, Commissioner, but ultimately I think they're looking for a historical location first. If there's a connection to a business that has a historical need to it or historical value to it, I definitely think they would be interested.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe like a local bank or something would want a little safe, or a safe with like a plaque on it or something.
Sure. Another one that was suggested to us is the Boise Bicycle Project in Boise. Besides providing bicycles to people in the community, they have a display, I understand, of historical bikes there. So there is a bike downstairs that's a tandem bike that they might be interested in. So that would be something we would suggest to the library.
I guess something to talk to the library district about. I think probably the display cases, they're not historic, they're just taking up space.
Correct.
So I'm guessing, could those go to like Idaho Youth Ranch or something like that, that they could use for displays in their stores? Is that just something we're gonna have to ask library district if that's okay?
Yeah, all of that would have to ask the
Okay.
library, because again, none of it belongs to the city or the commission. It all belongs to them. And I don't know, I haven't spoken with them. I don't know if Cassandra has. I mean, I can't imagine they haven't looked out to those type of resources like the Youth Ranch or St.
For-
Vincent's.
For the wooden cases in particular, I potentially like a school or something. So one of the ways that they would really like that they're asking for help is really to find contacts that could be suggested, because they just don't even know who to contact, that they could transfer some of that ownership. So if anyone has contacts at schools, for example, maybe they would want to display, or like other museums. One museum, there's the Oahe Historical Museum that was suggested by someone. So they're really looking for contacts and connections. And then I'll bring this back up on the screen. So if one of the historic preservation people has a contact, they're encouraged to make the initial contact to check for interest. And then if that contact is interested, then they would give that information to the library and they would coordinate the ownership transfer, if that makes sense.
I know in the past, Mr. President, members of the commission, the school district, their communications director there, Mr. Exline, was very interested in the historical things, and they have acquired some of those things over the years. Now he's retired. I don't know if their current communications director or someone else that works in that division would have the same interest. I know that's who they've worked with in the past. I know that's where especially Lila had worked with him directly and some of the items they had, and they've taken those items on already. So I don't know if it's still the same contact point and if there's still an interest in some of the things. I have a feeling some of the things they might find interesting are probably the things the library wants to keep because they're smaller. There's a lot of letter sweaters and there's a lot of high school items from Meridian High from the 20s and 30s and 40s that are there that might be of interest to Meridian High School, but I have a feeling that library want to keep them because again, they're easier to maintain and display. But again, that's between the library and the schools. So.
I guess until we can meet next month and have someone that would like to take this on. Ms. Schiffler, if you want to reach out to SHPO and maybe they can contact other county historic commissions, see if other counties would be interested in some of this stuff. I know I follow Owyhee Historic Museum on Facebook. I'll just message them, say, hey, we've got some stuff here. Would you guys be interested like in a display case? Or I think if they take the horse, that'd be a great fit for I don't laugh, for Owyhee County. So I'll reach out to Owyhee County. If you would like to reach out to SHPO and possibly the school district. And we'll report back next month.
That sounds,
Time, I know your time is precious, but
that sounds okay with me, Mr. President. One of the things that I'm sort of hearing from the commission, because it is okay to sort of let the library know that the commission doesn't really have the capacity to set up the subcommittee at this time. And these are sort of all the contacts that we have at this point. And you could leave it at that. if
That's
you want
fine.
to.
perfect. Any other questions or discussions on item 6? All right. Hearing none. Item 7 is update for the Meridian Speedway nomination for 2 new commissioners. We have been in the process for the last year and a half of trying to get the Meridian Speedway listed on the National Registry for Historic Places. Our consultant has done all the paperwork for us. They have submitted all the paperwork to the State Historic Preservation Office. So when we say SHPO, it's the State Historic Preservation Office. All the paperwork is in SHPO. They're supposed to meet in June, I believe, to look at it, say yay or nay. Our feeling is that they're going to say yes. At that point, it goes to national. And then I think it's sometime this fall, if I'm not mistaken, the National Park Service, who's head of the National Registry, will do the final say on that. And usually if the State Historic Preservation Office says yes, then National Registry says yes too. So we're still waiting until this fall to get a final answer on the Meridian Speedway. So that's the update on that. Ms. Schiffler, would you give us an update on the grant notification, please?
Yes, so we applied for a grant from SHPO last year for this fiscal year. And unfortunately, I did hear back from SHPO and the grant is not being funded for this year. And they wanted to make it clear that it was not anything to do with the grant itself, that the grant was written fine, everything sort of looks good. But they did have, oh, now I can't remember the numbers, but they had, I think, a lot more funding requests than they have funding available. And they tend to try to fund grants with different organizations that have not had a grant for a while. And at this point, we still have a grant that we're working on that's not closed out yet for the Meridian Speedway. So that is a part of the reason that the grant was not awarded this time. And they said if the commission wants to apply for the exact same grant next year, that we definitely could. Or if there's a different project that comes up in between now and then, that we could apply for something for funding for a different project.
To go on with that, we are also interested in looking at the mill next door, Zamzo's Mill. They have it listed also. We have not started any work on that, but that's our next major project that we would like to try and get listed on the National Registry. So I think that's what we applied the grant money for, was for survey on the mill. So.
And I apologize, Mr. President. I was not the one who wrote the grant. This is a newer position
Yeah.
for myself, so I'm not aware of what the grant was actually for.
So, no, that's all good. So that's the update on our grant notification. So with that, our next meeting should have been on March 31st. That is the week of spring break, I believe. We will not have any support staff from the city here on that day to help us run Zoom. So if the 24th works for everybody, that's what we are proposing. So it'll be notified the same way. It will be a special time because it's not our usual time, which is the fourth Thursday of the month. But that's what we're shooting for, is March 24th of next month for our next meeting.
So to clarify, March 24th is the current, the fourth Thursday. So we'd be proposing to do the fifth Thursday because March happens to have 5 Thursdays, to push it back to the 31st.
Push it back to the 31st. I misunderstood. Okay. So we want to push it back a week to the 31st.
If that works for the commission.
Okay. I misunderstood. 31. So keep that in mind. I don't have anything else. Anybody else have any questions, comments, answers? Ms. Schiffler, thank you for all your work you did today. So, with that, I'll call for an adjournment.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Alt.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Alt, seconded by Commissioner Keller for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.